So let's talk about interfaces. In C Sharp, we can create a special kind of class called an interface. An interface acts like a contract. The interface class doesn't do anything on its own. Rather, it's a list out in any properties and methods that other classes that use the interface are required to have. By agreeing to use the interface, classes are agreeing to contain the properties and methods listed in their interface. So, interfaces, just like APIs. The wonderful thing about an interface and the reason to use them is that it allows one class to not be so dependent on another. Take a look at the pictures below, life without interfaces. For example, we have a method called doWork and it requires an object type of class B. So here you go down, class A from this state goes on to the next state, and it needs to throw this object out. Okay, so here you go public void doWork class B object. Here you do your curly braces and just code from there. While this is okay, it means our doWork method requires a class B object and only works with that kind of object or children of class B that can pretend to be their parent. Life with inheritance. So you have your class A. You need an IDOR or a IDOR in the order to work. So you do your IDOR interface, class B, class D's. These are just states, right? You just go class A, class B could go to class A to class D. An interface allows us to use any class that implements the interface. Our doWork method becomes your public void. So what is void? doWork, IDOWork worker. So void meaning you're going to start your method from there. This means our doWork method is more flexible as it could work with class A, B, C, D, or Z so long as those classes use the interface. So walkthrough example. So here you're given a task from a company. Your pizza sells online. Customer goes to your website, orders a pizza, and you want to sell what type of pizza, like cheese pizza, pepperoni pizza. So you're gonna give you a code that you could give you a program that you could create a program that creates pizza and orders it, inputs, whatever properties that needs to have properties, variables, and variants. We created an interface called iPizza, which only says that all pizzas must include ingredients, a way to prepare that pizza, an option to add special toppings. It does not include the code on how to do any of this. It would look something like this. Okay, so you start off with your namespace, lesson 10. Public interface iPizza. Do your string, square brackets, integrants, get and set. Do you guys know what a get and set is? So you tell the computer to get, and then you set it. Public void prepare. So you're just saying that prepare is not voided. Throw an object with add toppings, same thing. Now we can begin creating all different kinds of pizza, but they must have ingredients, a way to prepare them, and a way to add toppings. So here you're gonna have inheritance of iPizza to pepperoni pizza. Right away you see errors begin to appear saying that the class needs to have a stuff from iPizza interface. It needs to fulfill the contract. So here you're gonna have a bunch of descriptions, right? A bunch of error codes, and you gotta change it up. And this is considered a bug. So one way to fix it is in our class that uses the iPizza interface, we need to give it all the properties and methods of the interface. We can repeat this again for the next type of pizza. So here you're gonna go down, have your public pepperoni pizza, public string string builder. So this is right here what we've been learning. Your ingredients. Okay, you're gonna have your pepperoni, cheese, tomato sauce. These are just your strings, right? And then you're gonna have your for loop. Start with your int I equals 0. I is gonna be less than your length, and then I plus plus. Go ahead and append it, and then string other toppings equal to add new toppings. Dot append, add concatenate down to another one, and then repeats itself, and then return the receipt onto the console line. So in your main program, you should have your pepperoni pizza and your cheese pizza. And here you have two pizza, bake for 15 minutes and bake for 10 minutes. So here we can see we have different kinds of pizza with different instructions how to prepare them, different ingredients and different special toppings, and our pizza classes are pretty different. Lastly, we have an oven, which doesn't care about what kind of pizza it gets, only that it uses iPizza. Okay, so here you have an oven, right? Your oven only takes in and gets out. So you want to have a get type, and these are just your string builders or your string. So here you put I baked a, and then you plus. Go ahead and get your type of pizza, and then you have your pizza. So it could be a pepperoni pizza, cheese pizza, and make sure you guys know that your public void bake I pizza is going to be pizza. So here's your object that your class that we're talking about. Class oven. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. The reason to use interface is that it let you use and group classes based on the kinds of things they say and do, and any class that uses the interface is guaranteed to work. You don't have to use interfaces, but using them will make your code much more flexible. Your code will often be less prone to breaking when changed. The code is less dependent on other classes to work correctly. Interfaces are an awesome tool, and they are very difficult to use. Okay, let's talk about your sending email. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to send an email from the inside of C#. Sending emails is a common task to most web applications. Fortunately, C# and the .NET make it simple. So .NET, right, that's a different type of coding inside your IDE. And it comes with different type of frameworks. In order to actually send the email and have it delivered, we need a mail server. This tutorial is going to use Gmail. And if you have a Gmail account, you can follow along with your own and create a new one. This walkthrough will work with any mail provider, but the steps to configure will be different for each mail provider. If you want to use a different provider, check your provider, their mail service settings. They typically publish these online about articles in the SMTP mail server. So what is a SMTP mail servers? Let's go ahead, copy that, just look it up. Simple mail transfer protocol. Okay, so here's a simple diagram. This is probably a better one. So it goes to you, goes to the server, goes to the internet, goes to a hypervisor or POP IMAP server, and then goes to the user. Google runs a bunch of security checks against mail and can tell that the email was generated by the computer and not a human. In order to let Gmail allow my C# mail to go through, we need to make some security changes to our Gmail account. Okay, so if you don't want to make these changes on your Google account, you don't have to follow along with these lessons. The Google example at the end was all you need to really understand. So here's the changes we need to make to Google. So go ahead and sign into mygoogle.com, go to security tab. Turn on the two-factor authentication. If it's not already enabled, you need to provide your mobile telephone number. You don't have to do this part right here, but go ahead and do so. Once you have turned on the two-factor authentication, click Add Password. Choose Other, give it a name, and press Generate. It's 16-letter password will be created. Write it down. You have a few minutes. Now that the Google is set up, you guys should have your emails, your Gmails. That should be you could use that. Go ahead and use this library right here using system.net.mail. So end it with a semicolon, namespace, mail example. Have you start off with your class. Remember, static void main, square brackets argument. And here, this is all your setup that you're going to start doing on your Gmail, right? So I'm just going to leave this up to you. It's going to already be in the solution in the GitHub. You can send it from there. And basically, you're entering your credentials. In our code, we're using a system.mail to top of our C# script. This gives us access to the .NET mail system. We create two things. Number one, an email object that represents the email using the class mail message. And number two, an SMTP client, which corresponds to the mail server. Our mail object has properties from, to, or subject, and body is straightforward enough to compose. Lastly, we specify the network port for mail, which is always 587. Our username and password. So sometimes if you're going to that port, that's probably going to be the main port for Gmail. So like for other ports, they could be different, like 400s or something like that. And if you're SSHing it, then yeah, the password shown here is the password we get from Google when we set up with the app password. Finally, we sent the mail with the SMTP server.send mail, and we shouldn't get any errors. If you send it to yourself in a few minutes, you should get a new message in your inbox. So if you open up your app, you should have a mail in your app. Last thing to say is that don't abuse this. Email providers like Google are very smart. They will detect spam and anything you try to do with it that isn't legitimate. They can and will figure out. Go ahead and just try to be a hacker if you want, right? If you guys want, just try to provoke the system. I'm pretty sure they're not going to hunt you down. But, go ahead and don't over abuse it. To view the sample code for the lesson, look at the mail example code on GitHub. So it's going to be on here. It's going to be on the GitHub /act webdev. Here you could check out all the solutions and guides and tutorials. Very good repository here, right? And this is a lot for project management. Okay, let's talk about your password generation. All right, so random password generation. So in this lesson, we'll look at the C# random class, which allows us to generate random numbers. A very common task for the website is to generate a random password when a new user signs up. We'll create your own password generator class that uses random number generator to create unique password. Here's our password generator class. So you're gonna start with your pool. You're gonna have your length, and go ahead and just create your random input here, and return output your password to string. The class has two properties: a pool of class characters that can be part of the class. A password length entry that determines how long the password will be. The class has one method, create password, that showcases random. On the first line, we create an instance of random. This will create our random numbers. Secondly, we declare a new string builder that will build up our password out of the individual characters. Next, we set up a loop that will be the length of our password. In the loop, we use the random to generate a number between 0 and the length of our character pool. Finally, we use the substring function to pick the character out of the pool at that character index and feed it to the string builder. When the loop is complete, we return the password. So this code is very easy to modify. You can modify any type of code, refactor it, and tweak it. By changing the character pool and password length, we can create a larger and more difficult password. Our random class acts. Here's going to be some of your keywords. Next double, next byte, and bytes equals going to return from 0 to 25. 0 including, it should be 256, right? But 0 is also we count that as a value, but there's no value in 0. So lesson files, go ahead and check out the lesson file 10. 10.4, let's talk about your music player. So just like an Apple iPod, this was based off of that. This is very good, useful, practical, hands-on lab right here. So you're gonna have a scenario that includes music artists, audiobooks, and movie tracks. And then we'll write some mock classes that uses interface and random to create a mock-up of how we could implement a music player. The classes won't play any music, but in our lab, they will output the various kinds of media that will be playing to the screen. Solving the problem. To start the lab, let's think about the classes that we'll need here. So here you need a play audio, you need a media player, and you're gonna have some of these contents such as music artists, movie soundtracks, and audiobooks. Okay, so the walkthrough. Step 1, create an interface. Step 2, create a class. Step 3, create a music artist class. Step 4, test out the media. So go ahead and do some testing. And step 5, create an audiobook. Step 6, create a movie soundtrack. Step 7, test other kinds of media. And your end results you're able to use and play from the console, from the terminal, and it should be in a random using a random generator. The audiobook just plays from the beginning, and the movie soundtrack lets pick from a track to play. All right, from this point, it would not be difficult to build an HTML UI for selecting the media and database for holding the real media to play. So go ahead and check out the view, check out the solution on the GitHub. If you complete this lab early, go ahead and just do some challenges on 8-bit, C# coding. And that's going to be your 10-4 lab. All right, so go ahead and get started working on your lab. Go ahead, if you want to go to this repository and start, implementing and checking out how to use Steve's code. All right.